Hello everyone and welcome to another beginner's draft deck. Today I'm going to be going over a very interesting deck, which is a three-color deck, and that would be Bug. Blue, black, and green are our colors here, and I decided pretty early that I wanted to play these colors. It was basically probably the third pick of the first pack. I decided that I really wanted to play these colors, and which is kind of interesting because generally you don't want to play three colors. But I did notice that I got some pretty clear signals from the person on my right who opted to not play black. It turns out that he did play black, which is kind of bad for him. And normally you would think maybe that would be bad for me because he's passing to me, but his second pack wasn't very good, and it turns out that the person passing to him was also in black-green. So those two ended up being the losers of the draft, and I ended up winning the draft. And I kind of realized it early, so that's why I kind of jumped into three colors instead of two. Very risky, but I'm going to kind of go over how you can make that work. So, as you'll notice, it wasn't a splash draft. I basically went all in three colors, 4, 4, and 3. I was all three colors. And one of the best ways that you can kind of fix your mana is through gates, and I prioritized the gates pretty heavily. I ended up with one Gateway Plaza, which is a three-color gate, perfect for this style deck. You know, if you're playing three colors, you definitely need to be able to play all three of them. And especially, I didn't just keep it pretty simple. I had several cards that required multiple mana symbols, including Blood Operative, 2 black, the Painter, who's 2 black, a multicolored card, which is 1 of each, Watcher of the Mist, which is 2 blue, Quasi-Duplicate, another 2 blue card, as well as a bunch of like single mana symbols and a few dual cards that are in both colors. So when you do that, it tends not to really work out for you, but I actually came out without any real mana issues. There was only one time where I couldn't cast my double blue card, or cards I should say. I had a Watcher of the Mist and a Quasi-Duplicate in my hand. I did not have the double blue on turn 5, which is when I wanted it, but I ended up not losing too much tempo and ended up getting the double blue on turn 7, and being able to play 3 Watchers of the Mist usually is enough to end it no matter where you are in the game. So I had 2 cards that were black-green and 3 cards that were blue-black for lands. And this basically allowed me to get all the colors that I needed. I also had some cards that helped me with some mana fixing, including I took this early. This card right here, believe it or not, is what kind of threw me into the third color. And I passed this card early in my first pack. I took the Atrata, which put me into blue-black, but I was passing. I knew I was passing to somebody that was going to force blue-black, so I wasn't sure if I really wanted to do that, but that card is just too good to pass up. I ended up getting a signal from my right. He passed me Blood Operative, which is a pretty bomb rare for black. Not the best card, but it's one of the better cards in black, especially at rare quality. I kind of thought there was no way that he'd be in black. He ended up in black, which is kind of weird, but whatever. And then I got Overgrown Tomb, passed from both players to my right on third pick. So I thought that there was no way that the two of them were going to be in green-black, but they were, whatever. And then I ended up getting a Quasi-Duplicate on pick 5, which is a very, very strong draft. I mean, out of first 5 packs, which this was a 5-man draft, I ended up with 4 of the 5 rares, and they were all very solid rares. Very, very good, and kind of, well, I knew I was in blue-black at that point because I had just so many cards that I knew I wanted to play. I kind of thought that maybe things weren't going to go my way. It was just a feeling I had looking at some of the picks that people were taking. I knew that I couldn't just go with the 2. So when I saw this card here, which allows you to, this allows you to get 2 cards from your library and put them into play tap, 2 lands, and they can be basic lands or gates. This is awesome if you're playing 3 colors, simply because, I mean, let's face it, being able to get 2 blue-black cards, or maybe a black-green and a blue-black, or just this and one other card, it fixes you perfectly. On turn 5, you have all your colors, multiples of each. You can play whatever you want. And that kind of made me go, okay, maybe I should play green. And I'm glad that I did, because I was able, there was a lot of people in those colors. There was 1 person in blue-black, 2 people in green-black, in a 5-man draft. So I was able to just prioritize the picks that I really wanted, the best card in whatever color I was playing, and able to fill up my deck how I wanted it to. And this deck came out to look pretty strong, despite the fact that it's a little slow, but I negated that with the cards that I chose. And it's only slow simply because you're playing so many gates that you're playing a turn behind basically from the very beginning. So I wanted to make sure that I didn't have a whole lot of 3-drops, which I didn't. My 3 drops were quasi-duplicate, which is really just a finisher, so you're not playing that on turn 3 anyways. I had the 1 locket, which is also fixing. This puts me ahead on turn 4, so I can start playing my 5 drops, which I had 2 of them. They were my bombs. And it's funny, I keep going with the same bombs whenever I play blue or black. Dowser of Lights, which is a 4/5, stronger than basically all the other 5 drops. He's very good, and I ended up winning 1 game with just playing him and then quasi-duplicating him twice, being able to get 3 4/5s. My opponent just had nothing to stop it. And then Watcher the Miss, which is a 3/4 flyer that surveils when it comes in. Also a great target for quasi-duplicate. Very strong card on its own. Being able to fly, get over the top, very nice, but I didn't really need the flying, but I'd like to be able to block flying. And I ended up winning with flyers most of the time, but not all the time. So I had Gatekeeper Gargoyle. I took that guy 3rd pack. Perfect. I saw him out. I think I ended up taking him like 3rd pick, because I already had so many gates and ways to just to get the gate out, that this guy was very strong in my opinion in this style deck. Not the best by himself if you don't already know that you're going gates. Probably not the best idea to build your deck around him, because he is 6 mana, which is a lot. And he only came out once, and even though he had the possibility of coming out as a 8/8 in this deck, 8/8 flyer. He only came out once, and he came out as a 4/4. But that's strong enough against most people, so I was very happy with it. My first pack that put me into blue-black definitely was the Atrata of the Silencer. This card is a pseudo-removal card, and I'll go over removal in a second in this deck, but he's a 3/5, which makes him a fantastic blocker. He can't be blocked himself, giving you 3 free damage whenever you attack with him. And when he attacks, he removes a creature from your opponent from the game. He goes away as well, the Atrata does, which kind of stinks, but it doesn't really affect you as much. I mean, as far as removal, you're playing your spells to your graveyard anyway, so putting him into your library is fine, especially since you get the 3 damage in, and he's removed from game. And there's a lot of creatures that can utilize graveyards or come back from graveyards, so being able to remove it from game is really nice. My second pick was another great creature, the Blood Operative. I did not pin my opponent on my right as playing black after passing this guy. 3/1 lifelink for 3. And when he comes in, he can remove a card from a graveyard. Again, a nice way to stop cards with like Jumpstart or things that come back, like another Blood Operative if there was another. But there's plenty of cards in the graveyards that utilize them. And whenever you surveil, if he's in your graveyard, you can pay 3 life and you return him to your hand. So he can come back, which is fantastic. I don't do a whole lot of surveilling, but I mean, I do enough of it. This guy surveils. I'm not actually sure if anything else surveils. I don't think it does. But just a 3/1 lifelink is fine, and having that option, because my Watcher is kind of an in-game threat. Sometimes I'm going to copy him several times, so that allows me to bring back the Blood Operative several times. As far as 2-drops, I ended up with 3 Passwall Adepts, who was perfect for this deck. The deck doesn't play a whole lot of 3-drops. It plays some, but most of them come down late. And the fact that the deck kind of plays behind with the gates, I wanted more 2-drops than I did 3-drops. That way I could play a 2-drop on turn 2, and then play a gate on turn 3, and then possibly play another 2-drop on turn 3. So that was kind of my idea why I went with 2-drops over 3-drops. And the fact that he is a 1/3 makes him... it allows him to block basically everything that comes down early. And you can double block for creatures that they really can't take on. But for the most part, he's a great blocker that allows me to get to my end game, which is it's kind of where I was aiming for at the very end. And his ability that allows you to make it so that a creature that you control can't be blocked. That's fantastic. I mean, there's no other way to say it. Late game, you have cards like Dowser of Lights, who's a 4/5, who's going to put the beats down, but a lot of times you can't really do that if they have a bunch of creatures, or just like ways to double block you. You don't really want to trade your big game threats, so just making them unblockable, coming in, it's a great way to finish the game off. And I had 1 Burglar Rats. He's a fine card, in green-black especially, any sort of attrition deck. And I did draw a lot of cards with this deck, which I'll go over in a second. There's the only 2 cards that I had that allowed me to draw cards, but I drew them enough that it was, that ended up working good, and basically turned this deck into a pseudo attrition deck when it needed to be. And otherwise, I think that Burglar Rats is just a fine 2-drop to have. He blocks 3/1s or X1s, and he lets you get a card out of their hand, which is nice. My removal package, I took these cards early. These cards are fantastic. Deadweight, it's basically on par, in my opinion, as 2 of the best removal cards in this set. On par with Conclave Tribunal, which is the O-ring for white that has Convoke. The -2/-2 gets rid of basically all the stuff that you're going to want to do early. And not to, because it kills all your X1s, it kills 2/2s, which is just, that's what you want to be doing with this style deck, because it's a little slow, so you do want to make sure that you have the removal early. Plus, it just has a lot of versatility. While it doesn't kill like huge monsters, there was one time where I had 2 Dowser of Lights out who are 4/5s, and they were basically how I plan on finishing my opponent. My opponent plays a 6/4 worm. I put this thing on it, which it doesn't kill it, doesn't really do much at all, except it was perfect because my opponent now just has a 4/2 who cannot kill the Dowser of Lights. Both of my Dowser of Lights got in. He didn't want to trade his only big creature, and it was able to, I was able to put in 8 damage that turn. Even if he was able to get something going, or double block, or kill my guys, or pull some combat trick, he's still wasting a card for the deadweight, and it comes a little too late where the Dowser of Lights, or ×2, ended up putting the beats down. So, Quasi-Duplicate, obviously, that's how I kept getting multiples. This card is a bomb. It should not go late. Create a copy with Jumpstart, so you can create 2 Dowser of Lights, 2 Watchers of the Mist, whatever you need to get it done. This video is going a little long. I'll finish it up in a second part. So thanks for watching the first part. The second part is coming. Thank you.